Wave your hands, wave your hands, wave your hands, wave your hands. Come on, come on, come on. I know you're sleeping now. You gotta wake up some more, yeah? Okay, let's go. The people fool us. The government trick us. So much. I said they lie. The people fool us, so. The people lie to us. The government betray us. They can lie, they can steal, they will not come up. I said we tired with their lies. We tired with their promises that led us to all our damages. We tired with their speech they preach indeed, and now unique they deceive us. The thing we saw, it frustrates us. So why can't you lie? Why can't you steal? Why can't you allow the citizens to be? You see, we just tell you that's why we voted you. But you fool us, you screw us, you use us and later on abuse us. So why? The government should lie. Why? But that's the question that we ask. The people fool us. The people lie to us. The government betray us. So much. I said they lie. The people fool us, so. The people lie to us. The government betray us. They can lie.
Good afternoon, Mr. Family. I know it's morning to you, so I should say good morning to you.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm wonderful. How you doing?
I'm good.
Yeah.
All righty.
So, folks, want to say welcome to the show today. We are going to talk about an interesting topic today. We're going to talk about the diaspora. The role of the diaspora, but a lot of this also relates back to what's happening on the ground in terms of how the diaspora can engage, how they can be facilitated, how they can be involved. Over the years, we have had these discussions, and it will just be interesting now to reflect on those things and see how we can share some of the information with people. But before we go there, I think a few things that are kind of happening on the ground right now could be a reflection of, the whole diaspora situation, just from a beginning level. One, I think is the sense of militarization that kind of leads to insecurity. So recently we've seen images of, Thomas Fala and some seditions in, you can say, military uniform or just uniformed. And it's not that they alone, because before this, I believe there was another incident where they had pictures of a beach and some guy was supposedly training, militants again. And we know that different groups do have, quote unquote, the military group, whether it's SOUP, whether it's the ANC political party, whether it's any political party, they are considered the militants and kind of like a protective shield. So for some reason, the situation with Thomas Fala has gotten more flag, gotten more attention, probably in how the level of organization, the formation, the uniform, and all of that. But what your general feeling on how our country has been militarized. Because for me, I go all the way back to the war, to the Civil War, and the mindset. And again, we always talk about mindset. The mindset has not changed. It's basically still a militarized mindset, a mindset that wants to dominate in order to get what they want. Show force and all of those things. What are your thoughts on that?
I tend not to call it militarization. I tend to call it basic thuggishness. What they're trying to do is essentially intimidate the population. These people are not trained to fight soldiers. They're not people you can send to the border. Okay, these are paramilitary vigilante or groups.
Right.
And basically what the CDC and people like Fala are trying to do, they're trying to intimidate the rest of the population.
Right. So, I mean, some people look at it like the government already controls security.
Exactly.
Is the governing, body in the country.
Exactly.
Why do they need a private militia?
Exactly. So it's not about militarization. It's about vigilantism. Okay, and intimidating people. Because when I talk about military, I limit it strictly to the government. That's the role of the government.
Right.
Anybody else who is dressing up in fatigues and assuming a military posture, the only reason they're doing that is to intimidate the rest of the population.
Because I know back in the day,
and it puts the country on a very dangerous footing.
How is that? Let's talk about the potential danger so people can get a better understanding.
Well, the potential danger is that this group will continue to operate with impunity. B, another group might decide, well, guess what? We need to be prepared to deal with these people.
Right.
And knowing our history of violence, even now, it is very reckless for people like Fala to be doing this. And, I would want to call on the international partners to let the We Are government know that this is not acceptable, because it creates a climate of fear and instability in the country. And it kind of suggests to me that this is what the We Are government is looking for: an excuse to impose draconian measures in the country, approaching the election, in the possibility that they might lose.
So let's say, a lot of people are concerned. They reach out to the international community and tell them, what can the international community do?
The international community, listen, Liberians like to pretend that Liberia is a sovereign country. It's not. Okay? And let's not fool ourselves. Liberia is not a sovereign country. When you depend on somebody to give you tissue to wipe the snot off your nose, you're not sovereign.
You're not independent. You're not sovereign.
Okay?
To a large extent, we're not.
Okay, so at the end of the day, it is the same international community where, should there be a conflagration in Liberia, we will be calling on to intervene.
No question.
So the cost to intervene is much greater than the cost to have this not happen at all.
And that's why the old people say prevention better than cure, right?
So at the end of the day, if it means that we have to call on the international community to stop financial support for this government until the government assumes a different posture, that is the patriotic thing to do.
So there's a whole school of thought on that, and I don't know if we should bring this up because there are some groups. I think one is Leroy or something, Liberian Renaissance Organization Incorporated or something. I don't really know their name. Supposedly, or even there have been accusations against Mr. Cummings that he has been requesting for sanctions to be placed on this government, or aid or support restricted. And you are just saying in some instances it's the patriotic thing to do to force the government to be a government and run its country the right way.
I agree 100%.
Okay. All right. So when we talk about this militarization and the fear it imposes and the potential threat to national security with other people forming their own militias or paramilitary group, it is very concerning. It is concerning to me. I know it's not unique, but just the level of formation, the level of organization that's being exhibited with the CDC efforts right now, or Thomas Fala effort, whichever, or George Weah effort, whichever it is very dangerous. So we got to just keep taking note of that, especially approaching elections and the tendency for people to be more violent during elections. And we have a history for that, for sure. I mean, just in the most recent elections, there was some violence there as well. So it's very important for us to take note of those things and be able to, alarm as is necessary and ask our international partners to take note. The other thing relative to that is this passport issue. I don't know if you've been following the young man who supposedly was a businessman, millionaire businessman, Bashiru. I don't know his full name, but he apparently, had a diplomatic passport. We have had history of passport fraud, our passport being used. You remember back in the late 80s, early 90s, nearly everybody criminal out there had our passport. Then there's the whole issue now of passports for people to get out of the country, issuing diplomatic passport, because many of them cannot get a visa to the countries they want to visit. And a lot of times, supposedly, when our big shots are making trips and they want to take their girlfriends and boyfriends, they provide those kind of passport for them. So I don't know if you've been following. Yeah, Kanti, his name Kanti.
Yeah, I've seen the story, but it all comes down to the same thing we've been talking about since this show began. We have no systems of accountability.
Fact.
We just don't. Okay? And I keep telling people all the time, this singular reason, the 100% singular reason that I gave up my Liberian citizenship is because I couldn't trust the Liberian passport to allow me to travel like I wanted to.
But give that example that showed the value.
Okay, so it's very simple. I lived in America since 1980. I had a green card since 1984. I was eligible to become a U.S. citizen 3 years after because I got my green card through marriage. So I was eligible to become a U.S. citizen since 1987.
Yeah.
I chose not to do that. And it was a conscious choice. Okay? Yep. It didn't hinder me from working, but I didn't want to work. I wasn't working in certain specific professions that would have required me to have citizenship.
Right. But I mean, okay. Technology, getting a security clearance also, but you didn't want to
Correct.
do that kind of stuff.
But I wasn't doing any of that kind of technology. Right. So that's all well and good. And then my daughter had to go to Taiwan for study. She went to the Taiwan Normal University to do an immersive Mandarin program.
Right.
And I had to take her. Well, my daughter's a U.S. citizen. She didn't require a visa. But as a Liberian, I was required to present myself at the nearest Taiwanese consulate, which is in Los Angeles. I was required to provide 6 months of bank statements. Wow. I was required to purchase travel insurance. Okay? So, okay, fine, I did that. And I took my daughter to Taiwan. I got her set up and everything, and we came back. So a few years later, she went to study at the University of Stuttgart. in Germany, I had to go through the same process. I had to present myself to the German consulate in Los Angeles, present my Liberian passport, present bank records and all of that. Okay, so we did that. But here's the thing that caught me. So I took her, and then we decided that we were going to take a family
vacation or trip.
Vacation at the end of her study, so that we would just travel through Europe. And you get this thing called a Schengen visa.
I will talk about that in a second.
Okay, so the Schengen visa covers all of Europe except for the United Kingdom. And so while we're there, they decide that they want to go to Harry Potter Land, which is in the UK. And at this point, we're in Paris. Well, we could have just hopped on the train and gone to the UK, except for this one person in the group who's a Liberian. Okay? And so I call, and they say, no, not only can you not get a visa from where you are, you have to go back to the country of residence, apply for a visa before you can go. So the choice was, okay, you guys go to London for a couple of days without me, and I would just hang out here, or we don't go at all. So we decided, guess what? We're going to go to Amsterdam instead. But again, that was the inconvenience of the passport. So then after that, the following year, which was her last year at Wellesley, she had a trip to Japan for her computer science stuff.
Right.
And we decided, well, guess what? On your way back, we will come to Japan to make it a family vacation. And I had to do the same thing.
Oh, you got tired by then.
Okay. So every time I needed to travel as a Liberian, I had to present myself to the consulate, meaning I had to pay for airfare to go. So let's say it's $300.
Right.
Okay. But I still had to do all of those things. And the only reason I had to do it was because I was a Liberian. And I had this passport that nobody trusts. That's the key. Nobody trusts the passport of Liberia, because going back as far as I can recall, we have always had issues with our passport.
Right, the credibility of our passport.
Okay, so, back when in Ellen's first inauguration, which was the first time I went back to Liberia, I went to Liberia on a laissez-passer because I hadn't had any reason to use my Liberian passport that I came to America with, which had expired. Okay, I mean, I had traveled, but I had traveled like to Hawaii, okay, to places where I only had to show my green card. So I go to Liberia, and I don't know, was the second inauguration, and I get my biometrics done in Liberia.
Right.
What was it, 2011, 2012?
2012, early 2012.
So the passport had expired by the time it was time for me to go to Japan. And that means I had to renew my passport. Well, I called the embassy, and they said, you have to come to Washington, D.C. to get your biometrics done again. And my question was, why? It's not like my fingerprints changed. My fingerprints never change. I had to fly to DC on a red eye on a Thursday morning, get my biometrics done. I rented a car, and then I drove down to BWI and flew back to. So it's a one-day trip from Arizona to Washington, D.C. But the question was, why did you not have a record of my biometrics? Because I found out that it was just for show. They never stored the actual data.
Wow.
So every time you need to renew your passport, you have to present. And mind you, my wife being an American, when she needed to renew her passport,
just mailed it.
The only thing she had to send was a copy, was to send her passport and an updated driver's license photo. Because her biometrics hadn't changed.
Right. So if we sum this up, the difficulty of you operating on a Liberian passport, the lack of respect for a Liberian passport, and the hassle you had to go through just even to renew it, all those things drove you to...
I said, I've reached the point in my life now where I want to travel all over the world.
Right.
And I literally can't go through this every time I want to travel.
Right.
Every time, an American citizen can go basically anywhere in Europe and literally stay for 6 months.
Wow.
And not have to get a visa. So at the end of the day, I just decided, you know what? It's not really worth my effort that it's going to. So let's say, suppose I go to, because the next trip we're planning was, suppose I go to Hong Kong and decide, you know what, from Hong Kong, I just want to go to Singapore.
Right.
I'm stuck.
You can't do it.
I can't do it.
So that's the challenge. That's a diaspora challenge.
That's the challenge. But that challenge also plays into the fact that the Liberian government is selling diplomatic passports. Now, somebody would say, oh, you don't know they're selling them. It doesn't matter what consideration they're getting back for giving a diplomatic passport to somebody who is not a Liberian government official. They're getting some consideration. It's not free.
No, it's not
because
free.
There's a difference why there's a diplomatic passport versus an ordinary passport.
Yep.
Okay, so the government of Liberia now, to get around that, for the people that they want to get around it with, is essentially issuing people diplomatic passports. Okay, but what that does is it now
trivializes our passport
and makes the ordinary passport basically worth nothing.
It's sad, but it's been happening, and we have to find a way to stop that. No, right now, President Weah said
we don't have to find a way. Sorry. Okay, let's stop. We do not have to find a way. We know that there's a way to stop it.
Oh yes, no, we do.
Okay, the solution is not under somebody's bed somewhere.
No, there's obvious.
So we don't have to find a way. This is about execution. Okay, this is not a problem. Again,
but isn't that our biggest problem in general? We don't execute it. We have laws, we got everything.
Every problem Liberia faces, every problem has been solved somewhere in the world before. Nothing that we face is unique to Liberia.
So why do Liberians like to act like our problem is so unique?
Our problem is unique. Let me take a deep breath before I say this, okay?
I think I heard this before.
Our problem is unique because we refuse to follow methodologies. We refuse to follow procedures. And the reason we refuse to follow those methodologies and procedures is because not following them will benefit a specific group of people.
Right.
As opposed to benefit. Listen, Ghana is what? 500 miles away from us?
About.
Okay, but guess what? Ghana has their national ID card that can now be used for travel.
For nearly everything. I mean, okay. That is like they're just in another space when it comes to technology.
But it's not about them being in another space.
No, I'm saying they're ahead of us. They are ahead of us. I don't.
If you put in the systems that can be audited,
that's what we can do.
That what I call systems of trust.
That's what we can do.
Okay.
The simplest thing, identification, we can't even do it with that.
We can't do it. So as a result, we're sitting in this space now where everything about the country is suspect outside of the country.
Right. And we offer those passports to terrorists, to criminals, to everybody. So
if you're not an official of the Liberian government, you shouldn't have a diplomatic passport. So anybody who is not a government official who has a diplomatic passport My position is you have it for nefarious reasons.
Well, a question, because you're using it outside of the purpose. Yes, yes, they shouldn't have it. But unfortunately, they have cheapened it. So we got, like you say, we know the solution. Our legislators have to do it, but they are the same ones who take people
but the
to the administration.
The criminals in the country are the legislators. Listen, let me tell you something, okay? The reason we have 3 branches of government is that the legislature is supposed to be a check on the executive.
No question. They don't provide that oversight, though.
Okay.
Rarely.
So the fact that these things are happening and there's no legislative oversight, it tells me that the legislature is a party to what the executive is doing.
They have always been. Yes.
Okay. So we don't have really a functional government that has checks and balances.
So they.
Okay? Let me give you.
All right, go to that example, then we'll go to the next topic. Go ahead.
The fact that George Weah had the audacity, he had the unmitigated gall to appoint an Avon lady to be the director of RIA tells me what little oversight the legislature has.
What, director?
What do you think Connolly is?
Oh, you said.
Huh?
The man said he worked with Ivanic, so he
correct. Okay, there is no such word
as Ivanic. That's when I knew it was a joke.
The only thing I can approximate Ivanic to is Avon.
No. Okay. So let that confuse the people. Look.
No. But so here's the thing. The first rule to figure out if somebody is lying about their profession,
if they can't spell it.
If they can't spell their profession. Okay? If you can't spell avionics,
that's the first thing I noticed.
But here's the thing.
I saw his LinkedIn and I saw
if
Avonics.
You write Avonics on the internet, just like if you say you're going to post on Facebook,
it will tell you
put the red lines under it.
Yeah,
and say there's something wrong with this word because it's not a word. Now the question becomes, how stupid is Connolly when the machine tells you this is not a word?
But you don't know how to spell it.
I'm going to post it anyway. It takes a special kind of stupid to be able to do that. But here's my point. The point is that even after all of these things have been made clear to George Weah, they have been made clear to Nathaniel McGill, they have been made clear to everybody in the government. At no point have they said, we should withdraw this nomination?
Because he did the same thing with Wabureke, the guy who was at LACC.
I can tell you why they did it. I can tell you exactly why they did it.
Why?
What has RIA been asking for recently? Money.
Well, question.
Okay? They want $23 million to fix the airport. You find the stupidest person you can find, and you make that person, you put them in charge of RIA. They know that they don't know anything about running an airport, so they will approve everything that comes along their route.
Or
they will give contracts to everybody that need to get that you want to get contracts.
Okay.
Because they are so stupid and so happy to have the job that they won't even understand the parameters.
That's a fact.
They won't understand the parameters and their commitment to the international community and their own responsibility. Okay? So the reason they appointed Connolly is not just that he's not qualified. He's even too stupid to know that he's not qualified.
And he'll be a stooge, period.
Okay? Because if that were, listen,
but
nobody on here should tell me that I should not say that Mr. Connolly is stupid. He is an idiot.
Oh, somebody said that?
Somebody sent me a message, okay?
Oh,
he's an idiot. And but that reflects on the people, you know.
Look, you blame the appointing authority.
There's a writer.
You can't blame Connolly.
There's a writer in the United States. His name is Leonard Pitts. And Pitts is a columnist for the Miami Times or the Miami Herald.
I will try to find him.
And one of the things Pitts wrote early in 2016, he said the quality of a lie depends on how much respect the liar has for the person that is being lied to.
That's a fact.
Okay? So let me repeat that. The quality of a lie depends on how much respect the liar has for the person that he is lying to. And what that tells me is that neither George Weah nor Nathaniel McGill have any respect for the Liberian people. Because the fact that they presented Connolly with a 4-month vocational education to head up the operation of the airport.
A trouble spot, not to say it's a smooth operation.
The #1 hotspot.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Okay? It tells me that they actually believe that the Liberian people are so stupid
that they will accept and swallow that.
That they will accept and swallow
line
that.
And sinker.
And so when I see people talking about why Connolly, you know, the other day I was listening to somebody and they were saying something about Alec Cummings. And I said to the person, I said, listen, Alec Cummings didn't appoint Connolly to RIA. That's your problem. That's your hotspot. So at what point do you stop focusing on what Alec Cummings is not doing as not president, right? And start focusing on the bad leadership you have that may cause a catastrophic failure in the country.
And that's the major problem with most of the people. That's the cap out. That's what they try to use. Mr. Cummings is not president. Mr. Boyka is not president. None of these guys are in charge of our coffers today. None of these guys are in charge of our negotiations or arrangements.
If you are satisfied with this, with where the country is, if you are satisfied with where the country is not going, okay, I'm not saying where the country is going. If you're satisfied with where it's not going, then maybe Weah is your man.
And that's why I tell people, if you look at your situation today,
and you say, I like where I am.
Yes,
I like the fact that we don't have education. I like the fact that we don't have hospitals. I like the fact that we don't have electricity, you know, and this, I need 6 more years of this. Okay.
So that reminds me, right? In our Cottington chat room, somebody had put down the story about Thomas Fala. Then some supporters of the CDC came in and put pictures of, 3 ANC guys with their berets and hand like that. Joseph Boyka, a picture of Joseph Boyka with, folks surrounding him. And then one other guy said, oh, I thought you people, CDC, MPP, came to change things. Then he didn't have a response. So I had to write something. I said, how are you looking? It seems everything we criticize, because I was part of the opposition, everything we criticize while in opposition for 12 years has worsened under this hope for change government. Corruption has worsened. Incompetence has worsened. Ministerial debts have worsened. Rape have worsened. Lack of justice has worsened. Poverty is worse. Lack of job creation is worse. Education system is worse. Insecurity is worse, and they're compounding it by creating militia. Impunity is worse.
And they have
lack of social services and social goods worse. Healthcare worse. concessions, arrangements, organization, benefits for the people, worse. Inflation, worse. What else?
So
and if people feel satisfied, then they vote for George Weah. There is no other argument anybody can make.
right.
I can't tell somebody say go vote for Cummings. No, I will just tell you what the situation is today.
That's where your situation is, and if you like where your situation is, then
Vote
you
for
vote for
Weah.
the person who keeps your situation the same.
No question.
Which brings us back to the original thread for this discussion today,
Right.
diaspora engagement.
Right.
And I was going to tell you, I said, listen, countries like Thailand, countries like Costa Rica, they have active government programs recruiting American retirees to come and retire in their country.
George, what didn't we talk about that like 10, 15 years ago?
We talked about it,
doctors
and the time is now upon us, because we've reached the stage where somebody like me, who came to the US in 1980, I'm 61 years old, I'm looking at retirement in the next couple of years. But Liberia is not an option for me. Okay? Because at 61 years old, with atrial fibrillation, with high blood pressure, okay, with a lack of health care,
you can't go there.
I can't go there.
It's just simple as that. We have a lot of Liberians, professionals, who are ready to do what you want to do.
My wife is a physician. She's been a physician since 1988. But even in Liberia, she would struggle to provide
the right level of health care for you.
The level of care. So when we talk about the diaspora, Emmanuel Wetty, who has been involved with EULA, and they have been involved with this whole dual citizenship. Wetty bought land in Liberia, and Wetty is close to retirement age himself.
Yep.
And he found out that the person who sold the land has sold it to 4 or 5 other people. Okay? So if you're getting ready to retire, you got your 401k. You can cash out the 401k. You got your
Social Security.
Social Security. Okay? Which may be, I think the maximum you can get is like $3,000 or $3,600.
Well, let's say you're even getting $2,000. Let's average it at $2,000.
So as a couple, let's say as a couple, you get $5,000 a month.
Right.
Okay. What is it attractive about Liberia that provides you with an environment that has security for your person, security for your health, and the level of comfort that you need to live in, that you will say, I'm willing to commit my 401 and my retirement to Liberia. So let's just take a figure of $3,000, right? And let's say we got 10,000 Liberians to retire in Liberia.
I still got a spreadsheet.
Okay. Okay. 10,000 Liberians to retire in Liberia who have $3,000 a month. You're talking about what? $30 million a month?
$30 million monthly.
You're talking about people pumping $30 million a month into the Liberian economy, i.e., almost $350 million into the Liberian economy every year, which is more than half of the current budget.
You're not even adding the friends who will come visit.
But
you're not adding the economic potential, because as much as we are close to retirement age, we still got opportunity to do entrepreneurial things.
These people are professionals. They are doctors. They are engineers. They are scientists. They are lawyers. Okay. So in all of those areas where you lack expertise, even for instruction, you're not getting those people.
No.
Okay. And again, we come back to the same thing over and over. There's no security of property, i.e., I can't buy a piece of property and know that it's going to be mine.
There's no sanctity of contract.
Exactly. So, again, this is what you're asking people to do. And I am one of those people who says, I'm just not going to do it. I'm not. There is nothing attractive about Liberia for me. Okay.
But George, let me flip it a little bit. Let's forget about us. Let's talk about this young generation, right? Nearly every year this time, and even December too, there are a bunch of Liberian young people graduating, people with Liberian heritage. Okay. And it really struck me this vacation, right? My nephew is graduating with a master in robotics, minor mechanical engineering. And we didn't go to his graduation because of COVID from college. So I was even thinking about, like, oh my God, if we graduate, we didn't go. And people miss like the first year of college. But these bunch of young Liberian people, professionals, or strong professional classes being built. He got two sisters. One is has a PhD in polymer chemistry. The other one is a medical doctor. Now, these people have affinity for Liberia, as many other young Liberians all over this place will see them being praised for the work they're doing, their graduation and everything. We don't have a structured diaspora program. Now with this bicentennial year, they're trying to say something or do something. But to what level are they serious to incorporate the diaspora, integrate the diaspora? You know, I gave a simple example.
Okay, so let me tell you way back when I went to Liberia in 2007 for Ellen's first graduation. I mean, inauguration. I was there for about 6 months, and I spoke to the medical director at JFK. And what I suggested to her was that they start a medical, I don't know if the word is sabbatical, but where you would get doctors to come to Liberia for 1 month at a time to provide different levels of services.
Right, and get a rotation around that.
And you get a rotation. So, you could say maybe we need 5 internists at JFK every month. Maybe we need 3 general surgeons. Maybe we need 2 cardiologists. And then you develop a program around that as to how you can get these people in. You can provide housing for them. You can provide transportation for them. They're not asking you to pay them.
No.
Okay? They're not asking you to pay them, because if you set this up correctly, okay, as a 501c3 corporation, they can even donate their time as a tax deduction.
Okay. Well, question.
So
there's so many benefits to implement diaspora programs around every area.
Let me just put some numbers around this. The average internist today makes about $250,000. So we're talking about somebody who makes about $20,000 a month. All right? But you're not going to ask somebody to take a month of their vacation and then come to Liberia, pay for a ticket, say maybe for them and
their wife, a friend, yeah.
Okay, pay for those tickets, pay for a place to stay, pay for transportation to provide you services in the hospital.
You got to put up something yourself. You got to give something.
Okay. I did some work a while back for the Association of Black Cardiologists here in the States. And one of the things I had talked to them about is even simple things like reading EKGs. They don't have to be there to do it. That data could be sent here. Okay? But we lack innovation. We lack
Well, George, I mean, I don't know if that's innovative, because like you said, other people have done that. There are programs just customized for Liberia that are already, you don't have to go through the real deep thinking, you just customize it.
And even now, okay, because one of the things that the pandemic allowed us to do is to expand telehealth services.
No question.
Okay, so
Dr. Zomo was behind a healthcare system to help provide telemedicine. We had a group, I'm forgetting, health something. He tried, they refused him. Providing the service in Sierra Leone.
But right now, the technology is so ripe.
It's better, much better.
So 4 years ago, maybe not. But our practice right now, we have 3,000 patients. 82% of our patients are Medicare. And of the 82% of those people who are Medicare, about 30% of them are snowbirds. So they come to Arizona in the winter and they go back in the summer. But when they go back, they're not going back to Lincoln, Nebraska. They're not going back to Casper, Wyoming. They're going back to the middle of nowhere. And one of the things that we have found is that since the expansion of telemedicine, we can now be their doctor year round because of telemedicine.
Doctors are like barbers. People don't like to change their doctors. They don't like
because of telemedicine, we are just as close to them as the doctor who is 60 miles away. When they're more
convenient. You're more convenient.
Okay. So, we tell them that the main thing you got to have is you got to have a blood pressure cuff, you got to have a thermometer, and you got to have a pulse oximeter. All right. Once you got those three things, if we can vital you, then it's just a matter of the doctor ordering labs, or when the labs come back, she say, okay, this is what you need to do, or you need to go to the hospital.
Natalie, right? Yes, she works with the VA and she has her own practice. Same thing. Telemedicine is it. So, I have a Liberian doctor, Dr. Bromskin. She sees me on telemedicine. We do video exchanges.
So at the end of the day, these things can happen in Liberia.
They can definitely happen in Liberia.
But the government has to be willing to make the investment.
Right. So quickly, George, let's run through some other things that have to do with this whole diaspora programming. You just kind of mentioned one in terms of platforms, but there's also platforms that can be used for education, platforms that can be used for anything. The technology exists today. Like you give the example all the time. You just go on YouTube, you see some stuff, you are able to replicate it and are able to do it. Once you compare 2-3 videos, you see the trend, how likely it is to be successful. You can repeat it. Many of our people can be trained, but they need that infrastructure set up, that classroom set up, this setup, the technology there, the network there, and everything, and that relationship established with somebody who can walk them through those processes, and people will learn. People will learn and be able to do so many different things. But they need also the practical application of what they're learning. So they need some tools, they need certain things. And unfortunately, this government is not even thinking in that direction to help the people.
So let's take, for example, computer science. Okay, you got several levels, and way before somebody gets to the level of having a degree, they can be gainfully employed.
Right, with certifications or anything.
So let's take, for example, simple thing like network. A network administrator. You can train somebody to be a network administrator in 18 months.
Or less.
But then the question becomes, what happens to that person? Where do they use that skill? So if I looked around Liberia, I would say there may be 40 or 50 government agencies.
Easily. Each one be a network administrator.
All of them who need a network administrator.
Yes.
So right there, you're talking of at least 150 jobs, because you need the network administrator, you need the people who actually plug the computers in.
Right, the physical aspect of
who repair the computers. So you're talking about 150 people who could be gainfully employed. Then you can train somebody in 24 months to be, or 36 months to be a database administrator. All of it's not just about giving people skills. It's about giving them a pipeline once they get those skills.
Yes, to get the opportunity.
So, because if I go and get a certificate in network administration and I can't get a job when the government is the largest employer, then it's not of any use to me.
No, it's not.
So again, it doesn't matter what it is. Even if we train people at BWI to lay tiles, if we train plumbers, if we train electricians, we need to document those people. We need to identify where are they needed.
And George, that's another thing, right? So that talking about BWI, or even talking about some people on the street, the people at BWI could be trainers, especially in the agriculture sector. We got the fundamentals of agriculture on the ground there. We have sun, we got solar energy, we have water, we have the labor. Okay, so it's just about putting decentralized packages together where you establish these centers of excellence that can train people, and these people can go out and be able to integrate, because we have a model already that integrates water, solar energy, and technology in agriculture. You know,
but the government now also needs to create an agriculture supply chain infrastructure. One of the things I've always said is you can't expect the farmer who grows the cassava to actually stand on the side of the road and sell his cassava.
And that's why there's a supply chain that exists and that can work, but we're not applying it.
So here's the thing. You take somebody like my grandmother in Nimba County who grew rice. She grew more rice than she could consume and even bring to Monrovia to share with the family. Okay? So as a result, the rice was ended up, people don't know this, but the palava huts, that's where they store the rice. Okay? Before they even beat the rice, they stored it. So the next question becomes, well, what slows the process? One of the things that slows the process is that we're still processing rice in Liberia the way it was processed 5,000 years ago.
No question, George. I asked somebody who's supposed to know
with a mortar and pestle.
I asked somebody.
I have done the research. You can buy a rice mill, a portable rice mill. Okay, you know the country that produces the most rice in the world? It's Indonesia. Okay, you can buy a portable rice mill for something like $10,000. They come in all different qualities, and the quality is rated on the amount of breakage of the grains of rice.
But just before you get to the rice mill, George, how they cut the rice or simple thresher, we don't even have that. It's still
there are machines to do that. There are even machines to plant the rice.
Everything. Everything is mechanized today.
So let's say the government decided that these are our rice growing zones. And in each one of these rice growing zones, we'll put a $10,000 rice mill. We'll also buy a thresher, okay, that will come to your farm and cut your rice. And we'll buy the rice, or some entity would buy the rice just when it's cut.
Right, because you can measure what the future weight of that rice is based on that stuff. You can get it.
So then the farmer's job is done. He has grown the rice, and now he's giving the rice to the processor.
And he know his product will be purchased, right? So he has the potential to expand, because most of our farmers are subsistence farmers because they have no market outlet, like you said. They got to do the
but if you have
they got to throw the load to the road.
Okay. The person who's now in the production on that side,
on the value addition side,
he would thresh the rice, he will mill it. Okay, from there, let's say you get 25% breakage. The broken rice, they don't throw it away.
No,
they mill it further and they make rice flour, or they use it for livestock feed.
Right.
Okay. So you don't have any waste there.
With agriculture, you can have something called a closed loop, where nothing exits the system.
Correct.
Whatever you grow, you can use it in different perspectives.
Even like we're talking about people in the villages. We can have an agricultural bank, okay, that will lend these people money.
The opportunities are so huge. They are so huge.
To buy. So here's my thing. One of the things that I thought about, let's say you got a village that has 200 huts, okay, and the whole village is farming. That's what they do. So you know how much they can produce. You said, okay, listen, but we need to fund this village and we need to provide an early learning center for the kids, but they need electricity, right? So each one of the house or the farmers will be able to get, say, a loan to buy 1 or 2 solar panels.
But even the government can invest in those people, those solar panels.
Exactly.
What happens? One second. What happens right now, right? I read today. You know what? I should just share here. George Weah has not done as I can, maybe it's an executive order or whatever, to lift the tariffs, suspending tariffs on off-grid solar renewable energy products. So with the specificity here and the fact that they haven't touched this thing, I would love to say from my heart that this is a serious order that comes with potential for Liberians. But I bet this is somebody who wants to flood this market with solar stuff.
That is substandard.
And it's probably substandard and stuff.
Correct.
Now, with this kind of arrangement here, there's entrepreneurial opportunity for people in the diaspora. There should have been open discussions about this opportunity coming, that people, Liberians, can be vested as part of this kind of process, and people who have projects that are solar related can come. Even with the RIA, I put something out there the other day, $5 million, we can provide 1 megawatt of electricity for RIA in the surrounding areas.
Because here's the thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Even when you talk about putting solar on a house, okay, you have to even change the construction of the roof.
In some instances, yes. In some instances, not necessarily.
We're not necessarily building roofs in Liberia with 2x4s and trusses. We're not. You understand? So the roof has to be able to support the weight of the panels.
They do. But if you have the right, even with pole structure, because we just did a farm in Liberia that we implemented a solar project on, and hopefully at some point we'll be able to share those pictures. It depends on, okay, so we did 2 projects, one that already had a structured roof and one that didn't have anything, so we had to build something.
Right.
So we use our regular round poles and we use some 2x4s up there on the roof. But they were whole. They were whole. Even in storm, they would be able to hold.
Here's the thing, Isaac.
What
do we export? We export lumber.
George, it's like we got so much.
We are sending outside to the world.
We got so much. How many times have we not talked about refining our lumber to get on top of the line furniture?
So are you telling me that we are so incapable that we can't have a sawmill for domestic consumption?
We do have some sawmills or whatever, but I'm saying,
but they got to be able to produce the standard things that we need.
No, my man, a power source, so many people using to.
Exactly.
We need tools. My man, there's just so much opportunity. Sometimes we just get frustrated that we don't take advantage of it.
But there's even more lack of vision that is hindering the opportunity.
Yeah, and somebody just made that comment. Okay. We need visionary leaders who can see these things.
So let me tell you, and maybe this is just a pipe dream or it's a fantasy for me, but one of the things I'm not a solar engineer at all. But one of the things that I would like to see is something called roof rentals, where, listen to this now, just hear me out.
I'm with you. Completely. Go ahead. Okay? Go ahead. Share
where LEC or other power entities in Liberia will rent the roofs of structures to put solar panels on. And as a result of them putting those panels on, the person who owns the property will get a certain amount of electricity for free, and the rest of the electricity will be pumped into the grid. So let's say you have a house and you can produce enough that uses, I don't know how they measure houses.
Well, probably let's say.
But okay, so let's put it.
Let's say 100 watt.
Let's say you're paying $250 a month for electricity. Just it can be any number. LEC can come to you and say, okay, listen, if we use your roof, we'll give you $150. So now you're only paying $100 for that, but LEC can then harness the resulting power. That $100, that $150 they're giving you has now reduced your expenditure on electricity. Okay? And so you can then harness all of that to pump that into the grid and reduce the consumption at the individual unit level. You can say to everybody,
but do we really have a grid?
Well, so Isaac, we have to build that.
But again, that's the facilitation that government is responsible for. That
you
doesn't
can say
happen.
to everybody who's going to build a structure, supposedly they need to get government approval. Okay, because we're building a house right now in Pinal County, Arizona, and we have to take our plans to the county. Okay, the county doesn't allow you to even do incandescent lighting anymore. All the lighting in the county has to be LED.
Right.
Okay, to lower the power consumption, and but the house will be powered entirely by solar. But the point is this: we have already got the solar rating of the house, of the energy consumption rating of the house. We know how much the energy the house is supposed to consume.
Right.
So what the government could do to facilitate the energy, to help reduce the energy crisis, is to say, okay, this is how much energy, Isaac, your home is going to consume. But if you make an investment in the grid as you are building that house, i.e., buy solar, you will get a tax credit, because now you understand what I'm saying?
It takes work. It takes work to structure those things. But you have said it time and time again. For government to work, government
has, in order for government to work,
if you don't have people
who
even have exposure to some of these things,
okay,
or who can think these things, it makes it difficult.
So you gotta say you can't, if you're going to reduce the if you're going to reduce the load on the grid, while at the same time you're building structures, then you got to figure out a way for those structures to not impose additional load on the grid.
So somebody asked an interesting question here, George. Do we need government, central government, to be exact? Can some of this stuff be done by local authorities?
No, it can't be within the current structure of the country. We've tried to address this before. They can't be, because we have a unitary state and everything comes from the central government.
But George, something like this on the agricultural level, again, they don't have money to start off, though. The local governments don't have the money to start off, but they can be receptive to something like with regards to solar energy and stuff like that. But
guess what? Those local government officials still have to answer to somebody from Monrovia.
And somebody can step on it, that's a fact.
And somebody can step on it.
There's no money inside for them, they can step on it.
Exactly. Remember, we've had this conversation before, and I told you guys what my friend who was the director at Walter Reed said, that Liberians are the only group of people he knows that you have to pay them to give them something that's free.
Man, that's profound.
Okay? They're the only group of people that you have to pay to give them something that is free. Because, meaning, if they can't benefit from it, they're not going to do it.
Yeah, they don't want it.
They can't spend government money for it where they can get a cut. They are not going to do it. So you people can talk about local government and all of that stuff. Listen, the superintendent of Mark Gibby, is appointed through the Interior, the Ministry of Interior, or whatever they call local government, what you call it now. The fact that that local government ministry exists means nothing happens in that county that doesn't run through that minister and up the pole to the president. So those people are not independent decision makers.
No, they're not. They're not.
Okay, and that's the way the government is structured. And when you structure government like that, you run into a situation where there's a lack of innovation, there's a lack of thinking about those things that help people on the very basic level. So,
somebody is asking about tidal energy, and we got some high tides in Liberia, right?
Listen, all of these renewables,
all these alternative forms of energy are possible.
I just posted something on my Facebook page 2 days ago about a solar farm built on a dam, on a water reservoir. It's a floating solar farm. If you go to my page, you will see it. It's built on a water, it has about 3 football field size of solar panels, but it sits on the reservoir. So right there where they have the dam, you got the solar energy there. Listen, all of these things are possible. Do you know, oh man, I was just reading the other day about Ghana. Ghana is one of the world's largest users of this drone delivery service for medicine.
Yes. Like when they were doing all the accomplishments, that was one of the things. Healthcare delivered by drone.
I think it's called Zipline or something like that. Okay, but that's because the government helped to put the infrastructure in. Okay,
but government has to do some of those things. We're talking about the technology.
Even if Zipline is privately owned, somebody had to bring the power to them.
Yes,
somebody
the power optics, the power,
to give them access to the internet. You understand? Somebody has to do it. I was just talking to some of my classmates from CWA this morning, and we're talking about, how do we get internet to CWA?
Right in the middle of the city.
Okay, so let me ask you this question, Isaac. How far do you think CWA is
Letelco?
Take a guess.
Let me put it like this. So let's say 200 to 300 feet is probably like a block. So we say probably less than a quarter of a mile.
CWA is only 925 feet from the door at CWA to the door at Liptelco.
Wow.
925 feet. That's all it is. That's where the high-speed internet comes into the country.
It is a problem for us to wire out.
We can't get that high-speed internet 925 feet away. Think about that for a second. Okay?
It's scary.
It's not that the capacity.
It's just that this time with the guy crawling, looking for water.
Right. I mean, I literally did the measurement. Hold on. Let me see if I can send you.
Josh, I believe it.
But let me give you the picture.
You on Broad Street. You right at the intersection there is Letelco. You go down Lynn Street. You turn left on Ashburn Street. So that one side of one block, 200 feet, 200 feet, 200 feet, 4 blocks. By the time you get there to the church, the place on the right. So it is about 900 and something feet. I totally believe that.
I don't know how I can get you. How do I share this file with you?
Oh, there's a plus button down at your options. It's the 4th button in the middle. You see it?
Yeah.
And then click on share, and then you can select your screen, or you can select the specific window.
Okay, it says add a file from my computer, upload the file. Okay.
Yeah, David Yanu is asking why I haven't spoken about the disappearance of the NEC official from Grand G. David, I'm sorry, I haven't really followed that story or gotten more information, but we can talk offline because these mysterious deaths, these disappearances, is very troubling. That part of the insecurity we face in the country that's increased and heightened. Is it a story about the lady who, and I saw her video? If it's the lady who was talking about her brother, I saw the video, but I haven't been able to find that video again. Somebody sent it to me. So, I get hundreds and hundreds of input from different people. But it will be interesting that we can talk about it on Friday on our other show, the Weekend Review. What's the status of this particular individual? So if you can message me on Facebook Messenger, via Isaac Tukpa, for me to see if I can get more understanding of what's going on, and then we can raise the issue, because this stuff is just scary for people. People just disappear. It's just sad. Yes,
it wants me to share a PowerPoint, but it's a JPEG. So at the end of the day, what I'm saying is,
but just put it in my what do you call it thing? Put it in my
Messenger.
PowerPoint. Yeah, no, in my
WhatsApp.
Yeah, WhatsApp. Then I can share it. But we can talk about it. Tifa, let's talk about this think tank thing, right? We have been trying to get more people involved, but a lot of people, because of the sensitivity of everybody, by the time you have a divergent viewpoint or you have a different answer to something, people feel you hate them. We don't have a real intellectual environment that will operate. You see, me and George can disagree. He tell it sometimes, but it's only on the issue we disagree on. We're not disagreeing as friends or brothers or stuff that it will carry over to our relationship. But most other people, by the time you tell them, say, "Oh my man, I don't think so," they feel you the enemy. So a lot of people are sensitive.
And the other thing is that they want you. They want your opinion only if you support the government. Yeah. Okay? Because I really had somebody to say that to me. You're now a government supporter. I don't have to be. I don't have to be. Okay? When the pandemic came and the federal government were making money available to companies, you think they asked me if I was a government supporter, if I liked Trump or not? No. They didn't ask me. They gave me the benefit that the government was giving to everybody else.
Yes.
So, we are so tied. But here's the reason that it's that way, Isaac. Liberia doesn't have a middle class. Okay? Liberia does not have a business environment where people are successful.
No.
All right? So everybody in Liberia, when they go to school, it is their goal to work for the government. Okay? And to go as far or high up in the government until they get to the point where they are controlling a budget. And then they will rape that budget. That's the goal of everybody who works in the government of Liberia.
That is what I didn't know.
Get to the point where you can control a budget. Once you can control a budget, you in mafia terms, you're a made man. Okay? So because we haven't created that business environment where people can thrive in, people then have to be very wary, and they have to deal with the government. So every dealing with the government is going to take something out of your business. It's going to take something from you. All right? And I say this to people all the time. If you look at people in the United States, the largest purchaser of goods and services is government.
Government. In Liberia, it's definitely government. That's why they can strangulate small businesses.
What is federal government? Okay? As the largest purchaser of goods and services. And it's the same thing for Liberia. However, if the government decides that they are not going to satisfy their obligation to you, that puts you out of business.
You can go out of business immediately because they're your biggest customer.
That puts you out of business.
Sometimes your only customer.
Correct. So, we have these challenges, and the challenge of any new administration is, how do we build a thriving middle class, okay, that government doesn't sit in the middle of and basically direct and stifle all the economy?
Come, let people see you, Niley. Yeah. So, George, now we are about to divert. I think we touched on this whole diaspora thing, and I think anybody who listens will see the need for it. But there are also some progressive young and older business people on the ground where I really think it should be more of an integration, where we try to match those visionaries on the ground that are so limited in all the things they do, not because of their own potential and abilities, but because of the surrounding environment, because of their lack of access to capital, because of the government not creating that foundation or framework that they can prosper, then not having access to markets outside. There's so many things that restrict the potential of Liberian business people. So I believe if there is a solid integration of people on the ground and people over here, it could be. And one of those platforms I believe that can be used for that is a platform that, again, is created by a Liberian guy. It's called, I think I should share for him. And George, you can look at it and give me your thoughts on it.
So here's the thing. Last time we had this conversation, I told you guys, in the United States, the federal government has something called the Prompt Payment Act.
Right.
That says the government has to pay you within a certain time. And it is that act by itself that allows businesses to thrive. Okay? By itself. So let's say I went and I got a contract from the government of Liberia to clean 5 government office buildings. Right? And from that contract, the government of Liberia will pay me $2,500 a month. I can now go to a bank and say, listen, I got a contract from the government of Liberia, and the contract is for 2 years. And over that 2 years, the government of Liberia will pay me $60,000. But I need to borrow $20,000 to get everything started and set up. That's all well and good if I'm the bank. Yep. But you know what I don't know? I don't know that the government's going to pay you. Because the government doesn't have any act that says that they have to pay you within a certain period of time. You understand?
Yep.
Once I deliver the service, I now have to walk to the Ministry of Finance and beg some assistant minister and beg some deputy minister until it gets up to Samuel Twe, who agrees now to sign my invoice. In the meantime, I haven't been paid for 90 days. I owe the bank money. The interest charges are racking up. Okay, listen, you can do all of these private things you want to do. If you can't get a commitment from the government to meet its obligations, because those obligations immediately can be turned into capital.
Yes.
At the bank.
Right. They're convertible.
Okay. So if you can't get the government to do that, none of this is going to work. And this is what I keep saying to Liberian people. Until we understand the role of government in converting assets to capital, we're not going to make progress. We can have the best ideas in the world.
Hey, see what the man will get the first installment and run away. And that's a concern.
But guess what? You get the first installment of what?
You're talking about access to capital alone. But what?
Okay, so here's the thing. But hold on. So you just got a 2-year contract, right? That's going to pay you $2,500 a month, which is going to give you $60,000 a year. You take a loan for $20,000 from the bank. The bank doesn't have to give you the whole $20,000.
No,
they give you a line of credit. They can give you $10,000. If you take that $10,000 and run away, guess what? Here's how the process works. The minute the bank signs that document with you, they also send a copy of the document to the government.
To the government. Government receives
The
that.
government pays them directly. It doesn't give you the cash. When the government pays them, they take out their payment and they give you the agreed upon amount. So there's a system that works, that protects the bank, that protects the government, that protects the individual.
Right.
But we have to put those systems in place.
It's about systems. It's about processes. It's about complying with them, and
So
somebody being
I
a
don't
compliance
care
officer that knows that
what
when somebody
private
goes
idea you have.
they come in. But you also should check Forum out. You know, Forum is.
I will look at it, but at the end of the day, Isaac, you know, we've been talking about all of these things for the last 30, 40 years. And the one major failure is to get the government to be able to live up to its commitments. Okay, in terms, how much is the government of Liberia's internal debt?
Was it nearly 100 million the other day, or it could be more?
So you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The government of Liberia owes vendors, people who have provided services to it, $100 million.
So how the economy is not stalled? Answer me.
You understand?
I don't know
the money that the government owes the people that it is not paying. So let me ask you this. That $100 million that they have not paid people that they owe is not contributing to the expansion of the economy.
No, it's shrinking the economy.
People are not buying more things. Okay? People are not building. Can you imagine $50 million going to construction of houses, of homes? It's not just the building. You got to buy air conditioners. You got to buy refrigerators. You got to buy stoves. Okay? You got to buy doors. You got to buy windows. All of those things. And if you had a tax regime in place, all of those things would be, again, taxable.
And then, again, George, all of those things are things that would spur the economy for more Liberians to get jobs.
So then the question becomes, what is the multiplier effect?
Exactly.
Of that $100 million that the government owes people and will not pay them?
It's huge.
You see what I'm saying?
It's huge. Very huge.
So we have, listen, we can dance around it and say, oh, we'll open a private business. Listen, if you have money and you want to have a foundation and you want to give money away, that's a wonderful thing. Okay? I'm all for it. But do not tell me that there is any person who is going to go to Liberia and they're going to start a business that's going to do any business with the government and they're going to come out profitable. I've never seen that equation before. I dare anybody in Liberia right now to say, I have run a business with the government for 5 years and I made $1 million. Show me. That person doesn't exist.
When you say made $1 million, there are people who are getting more than $1 million.
That have profited $1 million. You can't show me those people.
Well, the government most of the government people taking 20%, 15%
Exactly.
before you even start your business.
You can't show me those people.
But George, is the Central Bank of Liberia website down?
How do I know?
I'm clicking on it here. Oh my God. No, this can't be. I don't want to believe it.
What?
That the CBL website will be down?
It says it's not working right now.
Yeah, that's what it told me too.
Maybe
I just assume I had the wrong address, cbl.org.lr.
Okay.
Maintenance.
So there's also a public.cbl.org.lr.
It's not working either.
Well, you know, my man, what do you want me to do?
My man, this is embarrassing. This is embarrassing. Seriously.
No, it's not. Listen, you know, a friend of mine told me a long time ago that people get the government they deserve. Okay? This is what Liberians deserve. And until they understand how these things impact them, these lack of services, we're going to stay that way.
Oh.
Okay? So I'm going to tell people right now, if there were an election today, I would support Mr. Cummings. Because my vision for the country is to not appoint people like Connolly to anywhere near the government. Okay? And at a minimum, I don't believe Mr. Cummings would do that. The fact that Mr. Weah thinks so lowly of the Liberian people that he would appoint somebody who is that stupid tells me that if this is the person you are going to elect, I mean, short, I don't give a shit. That's on you. I just don't care. Okay? I'm building a retirement home here in America. I will retire. I will go to Bahamas. I will go to Hawaii. I will go to Singapore. I will go to Thailand. I will do all of those things. My father said not coming to Liberia.
Wow.
I mean, based on Connolly's qualifications to hold this job, I'm 100 times more qualified than him. Do you know that?
Oh, excuse me. Wait.
I have hold on.
No, I'm talking about with no experience. With no experience.
I mean, I got no experience. I got experience. Let me tell you right now.
You flew the airline.
Right now, I am a certified Federal Aviation Authority. Okay.
For drone.
UAV, my man, they don't call it drone. They call it UAV pilot. I have a certificate from the Federal Aviation Authority.
What UAV mean? Ultimate avionics vehicle?
No, UAV means unmanned aerial vehicle. I have 2 drones. Okay? To pass that exam, you got to understand, flight mapping. You got to understand operation of the vehicle. You got to understand.
My man, you qualified to be at the head of the airport.
In addition to that, I also am an avid flight simulation player. I use
really qualified. You get
qualified.
You land a plane in there when you come.
I have landed in my flight simulator. I've been to Australia. I've been to South Africa. The Liberia airport not there. That one that's a true. It's not in the flight simulator.
No, George, I think we had a good show.
So at the end of the day, all I'm saying to you guys is, if you believe that you are satisfied with the things, with the lack of healthcare, with the lack of education, with the lack of infrastructure, with the lack of electricity, and with just the lack of general planning, then Mr. Weah is your guy. There's nothing I can do to convince you to vote for somebody else.
Seriously, I won't.
Okay? Let me tell you. You know what? I'll just say this. I said, if
Mr.
I had money,
Cummings himself has said that exact thing.
If I had money, every year I would bring 10,000 people from Liberia to America to just be here for a month.
George, I just talked to one guy on radio in Liberia this morning. He basically said he didn't realize how underdeveloped his mind was until he just traveled one time. He only traveled outside the country one time. It exposed him to just so much stuff. We need that.
I would bring 10,000 people every month and just say, you guys just stay here for a month and see the difference. Because when you get a street light with solar in Liberia, you're celebrating.
On a little small pool that a storm will just throw away if it comes. But then again, George, our people too got to be here responsible. Some people steal the parts from those particular poles and other stuff.
Okay, so here's the thing, Isaac. Okay? In America, we have zoning. Okay?
Yes.
You know what one of the main purposes of zoning is after you get to the organization?
Nope.
It's like kind. Okay? If I got a house that's That's $500,000.
My man, that's a fact.
And right next to that house is a zinc shack that's not even worth $10,000. They can't send their kids to school. They don't have food to eat. They don't have clothes to wear. They don't have electricity. But guess what? One of my men are electrician. He can connect me to that house.
Yeah.
Okay. I can get some electricity from that house. Okay. The point is, there is security in zoning. Because my house
is like
my neighbor's house.
Yes. And if you try certain communities, if you try to put something on your house that not on the other people's house, they're not allowing you.
But they're calling the people to come and see.
Yes.
Okay. At my house, in order to restain my door, I have to send something to the HOA and say, I'm restaining my door, and this is how the color is going to be different from the other doors down the street.
My man, we bought a door and they refused for us to put it on. We could not put the door on.
Exactly.
Because that's the kind of standards they have.
The HOA is responsible to do all your front yards. You know why? Because if you got that one dude who don't cut his grass or who doesn't clean up the weeds in his front yard, when people drive through the neighborhood, it lowers the impression of the neighborhood.
And sometimes the value.
So at the end of the day, listen, when you don't zone, even and the different levels of zoning, because everybody who lives in an apartment, the guy in the next apartment, he's the same as theirs. So they're not going to come and take stuff from their apartment. So it doesn't matter what the value of the property is. It matters that you have like properties next to each other.
Sure.
Okay. And the minute you deviate from that, but guess what? Why can't it like that other man? That was my man who you're not working, said then you get government job. Look at the big house he built. I think it I like.
I think it's like.
It's the culture, the lack of systems, and you use systems, okay, to inculcate culture
and to enforce certain things. Because when you have a system, you can enforce certain things, you can make people comply.
Okay, so that's how you enforce culture.
Anyway, George, I think we've exhausted our time. We're going 1 hour 30 minutes. My agriculture man from Liberia is calling. I gotta go respond to him soon. But folks, the potential is there. Liberia has a lot of opportunity. Just that leadership is killing us. We don't have secure, visionary leadership. Because if you are secure, you are able to accept other people telling you what you're not doing right. You are able to accept other people's ideas. And you are even able to bring other people who don't share your thought with you to come and sit with you and even implement some things that they may be better at than you. So until we get that kind of leadership that's open, that's compliant, that will force people to organize themselves and be able to accept the standards that are established, we have problems.
And I don't have to like you to contribute, because guess what? I don't like anybody. That's just my own personality. I don't like people. Period. Now, if you can't take the ideas that I'm giving you and see the actual value of how it can help you, then that's on you.
Yeah, somebody said we should compare Evergreen Pro Play. We should compare Liberia to Sierra Leone first. Yes, that's fine. But we'll be comparing numbers. The in-depth knowledge.
What have the Sierra Leoneans done in their current government?
No, I mean, she's just saying in terms of comparison. But no, we're not comparing. We're not saying Liberia is equal to America or Liberia is on the same standard. No. We are saying, how can we move up? The solutions we
have to be aspirational.
Those solutions have been established here.
Listen, the things we are talking about, they're not things that are going to happen in 2 years. We have to have a short term, a medium term, and a long term thing. Okay? But we have to also be aspirational. Where do you want Liberia to be in 5 years?
My man, I think we had a comment from the great John Molu. I don't know if that's a real John Molu or a different Molu, but this question does sound like the real John Molu. He says the system is in place, which I disagree with fundamentally, but we have problem as Liberia. Liberians aren't good at merging the resources. I said that before earlier. How can you take a loan from a bank to do a project for the government of Liberia with a zero bank balance and expect to function properly?
But that's because we don't have the systems. We
Yeah,
don't have the systems.
The system not in place, John.
Because if the system was in place, there will be a mechanism for the government to pay the bank directly. Okay, the United States government does that with factoring every day. Literally every day, the United States government pays a factor on behalf of somebody who provides service to the government, and they pay that factor without fail.
And that's a fact.
So don't tell me you have a system in place when you don't have a system to support that kind of minimal level of transactions. We don't. Okay, and I hope the people who have been professionals in Liberia can stop standing up and saying we got systems. We do not. We don't have systems
that are not easy. They're not just on paper. They are in practice, and they are controlled. You can tell the leakages in the system. You can tell, exceptions in the system. You are alerted when things happen. So until we can have that level,
the integrated financial management system that they built the whole thing around the telco to, let John tell us how that system is functioning. How many agencies of the government are interconnected so that all of the procurement from the government goes through, and the procurement and the payment goes through one place? It doesn't exist. So I would challenge him to come. So don't come here and tell me that, John. I got a lot of respect for you.
I don't think I real John Molu there.
Okay.
Because we really respect the real John Molu. So I will find out who the other John Molu is. Maybe he can offer something else. But seriously, I don't think we have systems in Liberia. Things break down too easily with no control for us to say we have systems. But George, any departing words, because we're about to get out of here?
No, let's just go. We'll pick it up again next week.
Wonderful. Thank you, folks. Thank you for watching. You can share the link. You can share the video. We'll be here again next week. On Friday, we'll be on with our weekend review. I'll be going to my nephew graduation in Massachusetts. So I'm gonna be half and half. The graduation is at 10 o'clock. I know we'll be on time. When it ends, I don't know, but we'll be around at 2 o'clock to be able to, share whatever we can with you in terms of the weekend review. A lot of things have happened this week. And then this guy was talking about the situation with the disappearing NEC official. I don't know if there's another story behind it, but I will try to get as much information as soon as I can. But really appreciate your support. We hope the discussion is interactive enough. Like we said, any professional who wants to come on here and join us and share with the audience is appreciated, because George doesn't know everything. I don't know everything. We need more people. We need, especially those who have specialized in the areas that we really need help in Liberia: education, healthcare, electricity, water solutions, agriculture, so many different areas. And as we, more people watch, we'll start to bring more people on. But we're trying to set the basis for people to understand where we are, and then we can incorporate all the expertise we have, some that may never even be applied. But hey, again, this Facebook user, sorry, sometimes you folks, your names don't come through. It just says Facebook user. On paper, some things are there, but seriously, a lot of people don't want to follow the rule of law, and it's not only about the rule of law. Sometimes it's about work systems, it's about inter-organization system, about intra-organization systems, how things work. So it's not just the rule of law, it's probably the rule of process, the application of processes, and that's how we can get things going. So thank you for watching. We'll be talking to you later. Peace.